Okay, welcome everyone to the 2021 NAACP Baton Rouge Branch Electoral Forum. I am the Political Action Committee Chairperson for the branch, your host and moderator, Jarret Luter. Tonight we have candidates from the two local judicial races. Vying for the judicial office of East Baton Rouge Parish Family Court Section 1 Division B, we have Councilwoman Erika Greene and Natalie Tellis Robertson. Also vying for the judicial office of Baton Rouge City Court Division A, we have Terrel and Miss Whitney Higginbotham Greene. All right, first I'm going to give you a little election information. As a result of Hurricane Ida, the open primary in which these races are held will be on November 13th, 2021. Also, the general election will be held on December 11th, 2021. Early voting is October 30th through November 6th. That's excluding Sunday, October 31st. And you can vote from 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. The deadline to request an absentee ballot is November 9th by 4:30 p.m. You can request an absentee ballot online through the voting portal on the Secretary of State's website or in writing through your Register of Voters office. The deadline for a Register of Voters to receive a voted absentee ballot is November 12th by 4:30 p.m. Now, the candidates have already received the questions ahead of time, and each candidate will be given 3 minutes to answer questions, which have been, again, submitted to each candidate's party. We'll begin the forum with the race for Baton Rouge City Court Division A with candidates Terrel and Whitney Higginbotham Greene. Carson Marcantel was offered a chance to participate, but he respectfully declined. Are you all ready?
Yes.
Okay. Now, we decided ahead of time that Ms. Higginbotham Greene will go first, and we will rotate from that point on. So, first question of the night. Ms. Higginbotham Greene, why are you running for this office, and what's your motivation?
Okay, so I have run for this office before, and I have run for city court always. It has always been the job that I've identified. You know, when you sit down and you do that soul searching about yourself and you think about your skill set, what you're good at, what would be the job for you? And I'm just one of these people that city court is it for me. And it's for a lot of different reasons, and I think I could be happy there for a long time. I've raised my children. They're all off in college. It's the kind of thing that I feel like you go to work and it's a people skills type of court. You have to be following the law. You have to know the law, but it's also the kind of thing where you have to know who you're dealing with and be patient and listen. Again, it's misdemeanor court for those of you that don't know. You're going to deal with small claims, evictions, tickets, different things like that. And you get every once in a while a little bit more than that, but it's a variety. You see a lot of different things. They rotate around, and I just feel like I'm a people person. I like to listen to people. I like to know their story. I realize that not everything fits the same pace or the same person that's before you. And I think city court is a great place to respect and hear people's story and maybe think of different ways to deal with it. But that's why I'm running for this job.
Okay, Ms. Kent, same question. Why are you running for this office, and what's your motivation?
So I'm a native of Baton Rouge. I have come of age or grown up seeing firsthand our growing pains, being that we are a city that is trying to expand and trying to progress forward. I've also been working in some capacity in the justice system now for going on 13 years, and 11 of that I have been a licensed attorney. I'm all about public service and making sure that you step up to the plate to serve the community when you see that there's room for improvement and room for growth. So once I started practicing in the courtroom every day, I would hear things that I just did not like. And I think there's some iniquities that we do need to correct, and it starts at city court. A lot of people, not just the residents of the city limits, but parish-wide and across the metro area, come into contact with city court more often than not. because they deal with the traffic woes and evictions, small claims, small business disputes, licensing issues for businesses, and I want to be a part of the solution. I have lived a life of service from my days in elementary school, and I was always taught that you always do right by people and you seek justice and you work to correct oppression. We have some socioeconomic disparities here in our city, and I think from the bench, I know from the bench, I can be a part of the solution to try to correct the issues that we have.
Okay. Next question up first is Ms. Kennigan. What do you have to offer the constituents that you serve?
So I bring 11 years of courtroom experience. I started right after law school as a law clerk, where you serve as a sitting judge's right-hand person. And that judge was a civil judge. Then I also clerked for a couple of criminal judges. And then from there, I moved on to the East Baton Rouge Parish District Attorney's Office. And as an assistant DA, I saw firsthand that the people who sit in these positions of public trust have a direct impact on our communities. I can manage a large docket. I am very experienced in being in the trenches every day in the courthouse, managing a very large caseload. I also bring community awareness and involvement. I am rooted in Baton Rouge from day one, and I still live and work in our community. I can bring that understanding because I can relate to people. The people of Baton Rouge and our metro area deserve judges who can empathize with them while holding people accountable, but they can understand that the human experience is very much involved in our judicial system. So that is what I propose bringing to the bench.
Okay, same question, Mrs. Higginbotham Greene. What do you offer the constituents that you will serve?
Well, and I often say this, I have two opponents, one is here tonight and one is not. And I count both of them friends of mine. I mean, we all just want the same job. So when you look at us on paper, we all have a law degree, we've all been practicing, we don't all have the same kind of experience, but I don't think that any of us would do a bad job. I think that you just have to get into maybe the intangibles about what you have to offer, and that to me would be, so when I graduated from college, I had one career. I worked at the Secretary of State's office and that kind of thing. Went home, started having children, raised my kids. And then when my youngest child was in kindergarten, I went back to law school. So once I had everybody in the same place, I went back. And so I was a commercial real estate broker before that. So I feel like I've just worn all these different hats. And I think that that's what I have to offer, is that I've been different people in my life, which means I've seen different people, I've interacted with different people. And I think that I have that perspective that would allow me to sort of see that, again, not every situation is the same. I also was born and raised in Baton Rouge, been here since day one. I do think that Baton Rouge is a unique place, and having that perspective that she and I both have, I do think that that benefits our community when we've been here. We've been in the trenches the whole time. And I think that that is something that we both have to offer. And just our personalities, being able to listen to people, wanting to listen to people, and just wanting to do a good job and be a good public servant.
Okay. Next question for Mrs. Higginbotham Greene. What are the major issues facing the constituents in your district?
Well, city court is a different kind of animal when you get into courts, because even though we don't deal with felonies, I do think it's the place where you can deal with problems that affect our community at the outset of them. And I hate to call it the people's court or whatever. There's so many catchphrases about city court, but I do think that crime is a huge problem in Baton Rouge. I think that litter is a big problem. I think safety is a big problem. Coming off of COVID, we may experience some socioeconomic problems that intensify, whether it's inflation, whether it's just the difference in the job force, how things change. And I think that you just need someone that's going to listen and understand that not everybody's going through the same thing, And some people can pay a fine, some people can't. Some people can do community service, some people can't. Some people can come to work during Monday through Friday, some people can't. And just trying to figure out what's the best for that person, because when you figure out what's the best for the person, you figure out what's best for the community.
Okay, same question, Mrs. Kent. What are the major issues facing the constituents in your district?
So the issues kind of span a broad spectrum. The very basic level, a lot of people are forced to make a life decision. Do I take off from work or miss class because I have school, or miss class in school or work to go handle a traffic ticket or maybe appear for an unfortunate eviction proceeding? Others have these issues where we see the domestic violence issues in our homes have ballooned out of control for various reasons during the pandemic. And so that's a social and a psychological problem that we have to deal with and come to the root cause. Because yes, the actions when people lash out against each other become criminal, but we have to figure out why are people interacting with one another in this way. Another issue that we've been discussing for a fact the last 3 years is the monetary bail system on the criminal side. A lot of times we see where judges in city court or district court are not using a uniform bail schedule. So there are discrepancies in the setting of bail. For example, in a misdemeanor court, you may have someone who gets a $1,000 bond for a DWI. And for some people who have the resources and the connections, they know the phone call to make, they can go to a commercial bondsman, come up with the 12% plus the processing fee to get out of the parish jail, and they come home by the end of the night. Some people don't have anyone at all. And then you have situations where someone may have a similar circumstance, they were arrested and booked for the same charge, and their bond is only $500. Or they may get a sign-out bond because they don't have the access or the wherewithal to figure out how to get access to the right people to talk to. So that's one issue. Another issue is it's a notice issue. People tend to move, but the court and the clerk of courts or the prosecuting agency or maybe the plaintiff's attorney, they don't know you've moved. And so what happens when you miss a summons for court? A warrant goes out for your arrest. And if you are unfortunately enough to get picked up on that warrant and it's a weekend or a holiday weekend, then you sit up there on General Isaac Smith Drive. And so these are issues that they touch everyone. It doesn't matter if you are rich, poor, educated, if you have a vocational or technical degree, you get a bench warrant on a ticket, we all go to the same place. And so these are issues we have to address. How do we keep people out of custody, right? For the person who simply cannot afford to take off from work, or they don't have the luxury of taking off from work, or it's a student who is afraid to miss class, what alternatives can we do to help them alleviate that fear? So we have concerns. Do we have night court in the evening? Do we have more weekend court dates? Do we give people some amnesty where maybe the warrant that's ordered on a Monday doesn't go out until that Wednesday or Thursday to give people that buffer to come to court? So it's not just the constituents in this district who have that, that concern. It's everyone who drives that I-10, I-12, 110, Airline Highway, Florida Boulevard corridor coming through our city.
Okay. Next question, Ms. Kent. What makes you better than your opponent?
I love Baton Rouge. I love the people here. I want to see us grow and prosper, and I have been putting in the work. I have knocked on thousands of doors from the day we all qualified for this election. And I'll just put it out there, a lot of people criticize my youth, but that to me is an advantage because I have the energy to get it done. But I also have the experience. On any given day, I can honestly say that I have a caseload sitting in my office of a few hundred cases. I have talked to many people from various backgrounds. I have been on the investigative side of cases. I have been in chambers with judges researching the case law to figure out What's the best process? How should we get where we're going? I've sat in many court hearings, and I have tried cases. I have tried bench trials where it's just the attorneys and witnesses and the judge. And I've also picked juries and gone all the way from the jury selection process until the jury stands up and they give the verdict. So I feel like I'm the best candidate. I know I'm the best candidate because I'm fully prepared for this job. I have been studying and working to prepare for this job. And I have the energy and the wherewithal and the fortitude to get it done.
Okay, same question, Mrs. Higginbotham Greene. What makes you better than your opponents?
Well, I'll tell you this first. I don't like the word what makes me better than my opponents because I'm not better than anybody else. I think we're all humans. I think we're all part of the same network. We're part of the same race. We're part of the same town. We're part of the same city. And I just don't really think that anybody's better than anybody else. Now, if you want to talk about a skill set that makes you good at a particular job, we've covered that a little bit. And again, like I said, we've all got the on the paper part of the job covered. I was a state attorney general for 12 years. I was in courtrooms around the state daily. Different kinds of cases. I've liaisoned, I've been in civil, I've been in criminal, I've prosecuted. I feel like I've seen all of that. And that's great, and I'm glad that we're all that way. But I think what makes me a good candidate for this race, not the best, not the better, not anything else, just that I'm willing to offer myself as a person that loves other people. I love my city, I love my family, I love all the different things, and I think I'm willing to listen and give the people that come before me a part of me that hopefully they feel like they had their day in court, they feel like that they got a fair shake, they feel like they were heard, and they feel like that we work together to craft the best outcome possible.
Okay, Mrs. Higginbotham Greene, judges are called to make tough decisions. How do you make a decision when it comes to applying and approaching the law?
I think you always follow the law. That's the paramount thing. We're told as judicial candidates and lawyers, it's all about that our judges are fair and impartial. You follow the law. Honestly, nothing really bothers me more than when the law is so obvious to everyone, but you find a way to circumvent the law because that's not what we are here for as lawyers or as judges or potential judges. So always follow the law, you're fair and impartial. And then I think when it comes down to it, again, not everything is black and white. There's gray area. That's why we have human judges. If everything could be figured out just by reading a book and looking up and saying, this is what the law says, we wouldn't need judges. We would just figure it out. So then it's the gray area that really where the candidate matters. And that's where we go back to that you have to assess the situation, you have to assess the person, you have to assess, I can ask someone to pay a fine. That's the easiest thing in the world for them. They just pay it, they leave, they don't think twice about it, and they haven't learned anything about how do we get back up here. Same thing, other people, community service is easy for them to do. I think you just have to think outside the box, look who's before you, look at the facts of the situation, apply the law accordingly, and hopefully that it's win-win for everybody that's involved.
Okay, Ms. Kent, again, judges are called to make tough decisions. How do you make a decision when it comes to applying and approaching the law?
So there's a process. And the first step is for a judge to listen to the arguments and the contentions of both parties. But while you're listening to both parties present their argument or their case, the judge has to make sure they weigh the admissibility of that testimony because there are rules to this. And in a civil case, we call it civil procedure. In a criminal case, it's criminal procedure. And I tend to call them rules of engagement, right? Because a lot of times these situations are contentious. And it can feel like warfare in the courtroom, even though it's the law. So the judge has to be that mediator and that neutral and detached party to say, okay, that procedure that you tried to implement does not apply in this case, or it's improper. And you have to step back and take your emotions out of it and say, okay, I have to hold everybody accountable, and so we're going to move from there. So then the judge has to weigh the testimony and any evidence that is presented to the court. The judge has to be very studious and know what statutes apply and They have to know what case law, or we call it jurisprudence, what applies. And so you have to remember, of course you're fair and impartial, but what does the law say? What does the controlling authority say? Because sometimes you have to go beyond the black letter law that's in that code book. You have to go to what the previous legal decisions before you have said. And then you also have to approach it with the spirit of humility, because all human endeavors may fall short of perfection, but you have to get as close to perfect and as close to correct as possible. So you look at the case before you, you hear all sides, you look at all of the evidence presented to you, and then you have to go ahead and figure out which party met their burden of proof and who proved their case.
Ms. Kent, what can someone expect when they come to your courtroom?
The number one thing they can expect is respect. Respecting people as human beings. You have to respect one's humanity and understand that in the legal system, the human experience is a part of what we do every day. But then they can also expect efficiency. I don't believe in wasting people's time. I don't believe in wasting the attorney's efforts. I don't believe in wasting resources either. We waste a lot of time and a lot of money delaying processes. I believe in being prompt. A lot of people come to court in the morning, but people have things to do during the day, right? So they can expect efficiency, but fairness in the process. Absolutely.
Okay, same question, Mrs. Higginbotham Greene. What can someone expect when they come to your courtroom?
Well, first of all, I would say that there's a willingness and a preparedness that when you show up and you have that work ethic, that you have looked at their case before, you know what you're expecting, you've read a little bit about it, because again, time is money, and being efficient and letting those people get in and out of there with the least amount of time, just so that they can get back to their lives or their jobs or whatever else it is that's more important than being there that day. I'm thrilled that they show up for court. The least I can do is be prepared, be on time, listen to them, let them have their day in court. And you can definitely expect that in any courtroom that I would be in. But I think also it goes further. It goes back to the respect and the willingness. Everybody, if you have to go to court, wants your day in court. Nobody wants to leave feeling that they weren't heard. And I think that that's another thing that you can expect from me, is that sometimes to my detriment, I give people more time than I should, but I want everyone to feel like that they were heard. And so therefore, I think that's the only way you get to the bottom of what is the best outcome for this situation? What is the best thing for this particular person? What is the way that we can make this good for them, good for the city, good for future crime, good for anything else? And so I would say that's what you can also expect.
Okay, Mrs. Higginbotham Greene, are there any closing comments that you'd like to make?
No, I mean, I feel like I've said everything that I need to say today. I don't want to waste anybody's time, but I do think that it's going to be a low turnout election. And that always makes my heart hurt a little bit, because I think voting is the most powerful thing that we can do. So when I hear that they expect 10 or 15% turnout and that's it, you know, it really hurts. But I hope that people forget that Ida happened and we should have been here on October the 9th. We're now going to be here on November the 13th. If you can early vote, early vote. If you can't, show up on election day. But you can't win if you don't play. So people need to show up and vote and have their voice be heard.
Okay, Ms. Kent, any closing comments?
Just briefly, this is a very, very important election. People look at city court as though it doesn't matter because it's a smaller court, but city court judges have the potential to affect someone's life every single day. City court judges come into contact with people who are charged with misdemeanor offenses, traffic offenses, and those who have to litigate small claims and evictions and other professional licensing issues. It's a very important election. So I would challenge everyone to either early vote. Early voting starts on October 30th through November 6th. Or if you cannot early vote, please come to the polls on November 13th and take part in this process. It is very important, and it is my prayer that you vote for me when you're in the polls, because I am all about justice, fairness, and respect, and it is time to help our city move forward and progress.
All right, thank you both. Next up, we have the candidates for the Judicial Office of East Baton Rouge Parish Family Court, Section 1, Division B. Councilwoman Erika Greene.
I think they need our mic, the mics. Okay.
All right, sorry for that. Again, we have the candidates for the Judicial Office of East Baton Rouge Parish Family Court, Section 1, Division B. Again, we have Councilwoman Erika Greene and Ms. Natalie Tellis Robertson. With these questions, Ms. Greene will go first and we will rotate as such. Ms. Greene, why are you running for this office and what's your motivation?
So thank you to the NAACP Baton Rouge chapter for having this forum opportunity to share our platforms. One of your members said a long time ago that you're either a social engineer or a parasite to society. I took it very personal, and what I did was I joined the NAACP and right after I came from college and moved back to Baton Rouge, and I joined community work. And I believe that when Charles Hamilton Houston said that, what he wanted us to do was to lead as lawyers, and he wanted us to be involved in the community. The NAACP is just one of those organizations that I was a part of. And then after going to law school and becoming an attorney, I started my practice. And when I started my practice, I was a solo practitioner, have been for the last 10.5 years. And my goal was to be a lawyer that was accessible, a lawyer that had the people and their values and their experiences at heart. And so even though for 10.5 years I've been a solo practitioner, my goal has always been to learn from other projects and agencies that I can be a part of. And so I have worked in the public interest sector, and that's inspired me, working with people who are indigent or don't have the funds to cover their legal fees has been a large part of why I have become a lawyer and continue to do that. I work for Southeast Legal Services as a child in need of care attorney, which is important because we have a large domestic abuse docket in family court. I've also worked and currently work with the Department of Children and Family Services as a contract attorney with foster care adoptions. That helps me understand that the nuclear family is not the norm. And so we need to value third parties that are assisting with raising children. And all this started at Southern University Law Center when I was in the clinical education program for 2 years, doing public interest work, went on to juvenile court to be a court-appointed criminal attorney, defense attorney. And so it's just about people, experiences, and valuing those experiences that they have. It doesn't have to be a lived experience all the time, but when you are working with those that don't have access to justice, you realize that there needs to be someone fighting for them. And so that's why I wanted to be a lawyer, and that's why I want to be a judge.
Ms. Robertson, same question. Why are you running for this office and what's your motivation?
Well, good evening. I'm Natalie Tellis Robertson, and I'd like to thank the NAACP for having this forum this evening. And so I would like to say that when I first became a lawyer, I did not know what genre of the law that I would be interested in, but I believe that God puts people in your path for a certain reason, and God put Judge Laverne in my path. And Judge Laverne was the first African-American judge who took the seat for Division B. And so he recruited me to come and work for him as a research attorney in this division that we're running for. And that is what first made me see, it helped me to see what my purpose was as an attorney. And so my motivation really is to continue the legacy of Judge Laverne and Judge Lisa Woodruff White in having a fair and impartial practitioner who has dedicated her life, her career, and her service to family law. So that's what my motivation is. I connect really well with my clients. I've worked in this field for 23 years, and I connect very well with my clients. I did not know that would be something that I would be good at. I am by nature a very shy person. I'm not very public, but when I had the opportunity to be able to sit one-on-one with people who needed assistance in divorce, custody, child support, and domestic violence issues, I found that people really did feel comfortable with me, at ease with me, and felt like at the lowest point of their lives, they felt like I was somebody who would come in and knew what I was talking about, was seasoned, had behind the scenes experience from having worked in the family court, and was gonna be an advocate for them as zealous as I possibly could be, and make sure that the fairest outcome would be obtained.
Okay. Ms. Robertson, what do you offer the constituents that you will serve?
So again, I offer my maturity and my experience, my length of exposure to family law, my depth of knowledge of family law, my interaction with Judge Luke Laverne and Judge Lisa Woodruff White as a research attorney. I'm very lucky that I was working with judges who kept me intimately engaged in the legal process and the decision-making process. And so without having been elected as a judge, I really got to help make decisions as if I were the judge. And so each judge that I worked for was humble enough to allow me to do the research, accept my opinions, accept my input on different cases. And so it's just been invaluable. That's what I have to offer everybody, that I do connect well with people one-on-one. I'm not a person who's going to be the life of the party, but I'm definitely a person who will connect with litigants really well. I think that each litigant should have a voice. I know what it's like to be in court and feel as though you're not heard. And so the number one characteristic that I want to bring to family court is fairness. And in fairness, you want to make sure that each person feels as though they've had a voice, that the person that they're before is neutral, and the person that they're before is fair. And so that's what I feel like I have my breadth of experience, knowledge, and compassion to offer anyone who comes before me in family court if I'm fortunate enough to be elected.
Okay, Ms. Greene, what do you offer the constituents that you will serve?
So I believe that, and I've said this before, I offer diverse legal experience. My practice was not solely in one particular field or specialty in family law, and it consisted of civil litigation in many different courts and parishes. I worked in New Orleans Parish, in Orleans Parish as a public defender. In turn, I've worked as a judicial law clerk for a federal court judge. But in my private practice, because I'm a practitioner that you eat but you kill, I had to learn on site learn. I had great mentors that I'm proud to have been next to and to learn in front of and around. But also things like estate law, which I currently still practice, which deals with successions and estates. So you're dealing with family members who feel they're entitled to property from someone through heirship. I also, like I said, I did criminal, also did civil litigation, and even worked worked with mediation as far as worked with Southern University Law Clinic and LSU Law Clinic, and have spoke to them many times. I do services, pro bono work, whether it's workshops. Right now, this is Pro Bono Week from the Baton Rouge Bar Association, and they're recognizing individuals that have done pro bono work continuously. And I'm in the Century Club, so I was able to get an award, which will be given this week, because I've continuously taken cases. And so that diverse legal experience, being trusted by agencies as well as individual clients, but also, learning on your own and in the trenches teaches you a lot more about the law, a lot more about different areas of law, and it helps you to grow. I've done 2 appeals, and 1 actually went to the Bar Journal, and I'm proud of that. And that's a lot of work. Many people don't know the efforts that it takes to do that. And so I'm proud of the work that I've done, but I offer that to the constituents in our district.
Okay, Ms. Greene, what are the major issues facing the constituents in your district?
So family court deals with very sensitive issues: divorce, custody, child support, community property issues, things that deals with your personal lives, your children's lives, and your finances. So it gets contentious at times. And one of the issues that I found in family court that has been one that is controversial and is paternity issues. And we all know that child support is a calculation based on guidelines. But paternity is different because in Louisiana, we can be legal or biological fathers. And so many times men connect themselves to children just by the sake of the woman's word. And so I believe that paternity is an issue that we need to address, and how we have done default judgments that named men as fathers, and that we have set child support obligations for individuals that have not yet taken a blood test, a DNA test, to assert their affiliation to a child. And so I believe that's issues that I hear every day when I'm on the campaign trail, when I'm at the barbershop. But I understand both sides of that rim, where the fathers have their concerns and the mothers have to prove that that's their child. I think the laws are changing. We just had a CLE recently where there's now accountability and actual sentencing and penalties, not sentencing, penalties for asserting that someone is the father of a child that you knew wasn't. And so I think we are evolving in the legal field and family law, but I think paternity has been a big issue for us.
Okay, same question, Mrs. Robertson. What are the major issues facing the constituents in your district?
So as it relates to family law, I think the rise in domestic violence cases is the #1 issue that's facing the constituents in this particular district. And I think that also relates back to untreated mental health issues and poverty, not being able to earn a wage to be able to support your family, and that's frustrating. And so with this particular district, that's what I think is the major concern. I think we also, within family court, we have a lot of issues with regard to fines and penalties, and the way that the court relies on fines and penalties to fund the court. It's unfortunate for the litigants because I just don't think that the litigants should be the people who we are depending on to fund the court. It should be the state that's funding the court and making the court go forward. But I do think that if we continue to address the domestic violence issues through IRIS, the Battered Women's Program, and all the domestic violence and community service activities that we have going on, that we will be able to hopefully diminish, and the court can help with that in working with the Louisiana Law Institute to further address untreated mental illness, as I said, and other things that contribute to domestic violence, which also includes COVID and some of the hardships that our community has had to endure with the hurricane, the COVID, and other challenges in the last few months.
Okay. Ms. Robertson, what makes you better than your opponent?
So I'm like Ms. Higginbotham Greene. I don't like to say that I'm better, and I have a great amount of respect for my opponent, and I know that she has worked hard in the community and has done a lot of good for the constituents in her district. But particularly in family court, I think I'll offer someone who has worked in this genre for several years. Like I said, I have the length of exposure, the breadth of exposure, the unique behind the scenes experience with the two judges that have worked in this division, the two African American judges that have worked in this division. And in that, I have been able to help them with decision making by looking at witnesses, looking at testimony, determining credibility of witnesses, looking at evidence and trying to decide if in weighing the evidence, if looking at the facts, applying it to the law, and seeing whether or not, seeing what decisions should be made. And so I've done that in my several years of experience working with the court, but also as a practitioner. I heard Ms. Greene talk about her breadth of experience, and in the infancy of my legal career, I did also work with juvenile court, and I was appointed to work with non-support defendants. I've also worked in criminal court. I've worked in criminal trials, juvenile court, a variety of different things. But then, I moved beyond that and found what my passion was, what my niche was, and I continued to work in that capacity all of these years. And so for 23 years, in addition to having that breadth of experience, I also have the unique experience of, again, having worked behind the scenes in family court and having been a practitioner and having interacted with hundreds of litigants in hundreds of different custody cases, whereby, I learned, I matured a lot, because I remember when I was a young attorney and I was kind of scrappy and I wanted to get out there and I wanted to win, and I wasn't as concerned with facilitating solutions, but as I've matured, I have learned how to facilitate solutions, and as a judge, I would like to be able to facilitate solutions and kind of counsel young attorneys to see that it's not about making a name for yourself. It's more about being able to make sure that the litigants come in and get a fair shot, and the litigants get an opportunity to come in and, especially in family court, to learn how to co-parent, to use the resources that family court recommends, so that solutions can be reached, especially when we're having divorces and custody situations where parents need to learn how to co-parent and move forward with and help the children move forward with their lives.
Okay, same question, Ms. Greene. What makes you better than your opponent?
So I think everyone said the same thing, that this is definitely about experience, and it's definitely respect across the board. Because to be a lawyer means that you're definitely sacrificing yourself many days. Your family, you're sacrificing time, you're sacrificing, and as a judge, you'll do that same sacrifice. You're going to be there long hours. You're going to be there before anybody knows me. I'm the person that comes to work at 7:30. I'm the person that, yes, researches the cases before me. Look, I talk to my mentors, and I believe that that is something that is needed in family court. I think that what I bring to the table is the experience of having a high caseload. Public interest work is not for the faint at heart. Your caseloads are large. You're dealing with multiple people in court at one time. You are trying to explain to them, and you have to understand, many of your clients don't understand. It's their first time they're ever coming to family court and to court in general, and you have to be able to help them understand what's happening in court and the law behind it. Now, my role as a judge is not to practice law, is not to lawyer the case, but to make sure that there is an efficient courtroom, to make sure that the docket is moving, to come and find ways for attorneys. I think what we've been doing in family court with pre-statuses has been effective with lowering the case docket. And I believe that I offer that. The experience that I've had in working, like I said, in public interest work has helped me to understand that everyone's experience and their values and their families are different. And so I bring that to the table I do understand the seriousness of the cases before me. And like I said, I'm an impartial hearing officer for Louisiana Workforce Commission. I have to make rulings, I have to set the docket, I have to talk with the counsel that comes before me and or the contracted counsel that will come before me and the litigant. And sometimes that gets to be tedious, but you need someone that's meticulous, that is detail oriented, and that cares about the case, and that cares about the law before them and the issue before them. And so I think that I bring that to the table as well. So when I say again, diverse legal experience, it is definitely covering many facets of the law, but these are skill sets that I've learned that will help me in being a judge.
Ms. Greene, next question. Judges are called to make tough decisions. How do you make a decision when it comes to applying and approaching the law?
When I read that question, I thought about a story from one of my cases in another parish, and it was a child in need of care case. Those are abuse cases. And at that time, you were an advocate. I represented the child, so I was an advocate for the child at the time. And the goal in juvenile court and the goal in child need of care cases is reunification always. That should be the goal in family court as well. And what happens is you have individuals that parent at the time had some substance abuse issues. They lacked resources. They didn't even have a family support in the courtroom with them. So what I did was advocate to the judge, but I also talked to the parent and said, though I'm the child's advocate, I want you to understand my recommendation for extending the time period of separation from you and your child is so that you have the opportunity to better yourself and the impact that you would have on your child. That's difficult. That's not biased. That's not that has nothing to do with a lacking experience. That has something to do with understanding the case before you and understanding the needs of the people before you. And so it was difficult that mother would have to be a couple of more months without her child, but it's better for the family. And we know that family law cases drag on for almost the whole entire life of the child if there is no solution that's had or the parents have not learned how to co-parent. And so it is difficult, but I've done that before. I've also connected people to resources, like a substance abuse evaluator, like a counselor. And many times people cannot afford counselors or parent coordinators, and there are many that can. And so it's a good recommendation for some families. But when you're making a difficult decision that impacts the life of a child, you can't be scared to do it. And I'm serious about the practice of law, and I'm serious about family court. I'm serious about families and youth. Even being in NAACP, we had, as a youth council advisor, working with young people, I had to make some decisions that that the officers did not agree with. But I did it for the children. I wanted to make sure the children had access and exposure. And so I take that same role, even being an advisor, as I would do being a family court judge. And you need someone that understands that it's not easy and it will be difficult, but I know that I can make that decision.
Okay, Ms. Robertson, same question. Judges are called to make tough decisions. How do you make a decision when it comes to applying the law?
Okay, so first I just want to be clear that child in need of care cases and child neglect cases and adoption cases are in East Baton Rouge Parish more typically, are not more typically, but are heard in juvenile court. And so in family court, we deal with divorce, custody, child support, community property, and domestic violence. And so, so I just want to say that chiefly, we're looking at divorces and making sure that procedurally, the divorces are procedurally correct, and that when they're confirmed that they can't be undone because they're done correctly. Then with custody cases, it's good to have, I do think it's good to have experience with child in need of care and things of that nature, which I have because I've worked in the juvenile court realm. But you have to realize that, and I want the constituents to be clear, that what the family court judge is deciding is what's in the best interest of the child when it comes to deciding custody between mom and dad. And so what happens is mom and dad are at odds, and both of them may want to be the primary caretaker of the child. They may not agree with 50-50, which is each parent having the child 50% of the time during a month-long span. And so, or they may not agree with education decisions. They may not agree with healthcare decisions if the child has special needs. And so what the family court judge is deciding is whether or not we're going to do, well, joint custody is preferred in Louisiana, but whether or not we're going to do 50-50, whether or not both parents can facilitate 50-50, and then whether or not there's going to be one parent, we call the domiciliary parent, is going to be making decisions about where the child goes to school and what the health care for the child is going to be and what extracurricular activities that the parents are going to agree on. So I just wanted to be clear that that's what the family court judge is deciding. And so if you could repeat the question for me again.
Sure. What judges are called to make tough decisions. How do you make a decision when it comes to applying?
So I did talk about this earlier in the forum. I work behind the scenes with, like I said, the Division B judges. And so what we have to do when we're making tough decisions is to weigh the evidence and look at the law and determine how the facts apply to the law. We are always bound to follow the law, but there are different circumstances in each case. And so if I'm elected judge, I will do what I've done before with the other judges, which is to look at everything on a case-by-case basis, really hear the litigants, really understand what it is, what their concerns are, because as a parent, I understand that you have special desires and wishes for your child. And so I want to take that into consideration when I'm listening to the litigants, when I'm applying the law to make decisions about what's going to be in the child's best interest with regard to education and health care. So I'm always going to look at the law, look at the facts, look at the testimony, weigh the credibility of the witnesses. I just had this conversation with Judge Woodruff White today, as a matter of fact, that over time, as you work in the court, you begin to be able to decipher by vocal inflection, by the way that people interact on the stand, interact with the attorney that's asking the questions, who is telling the truth. And so so I know that I'm going to look closely at whether or not witnesses are credible, whether or not stories are conflicting, and then when I find what the truth is, then apply those facts to the law and make the best decision in the best interest of the children in custody cases.
Okay. Next question, Ms. Robertson. What can someone expect when they come to your courtroom?
So, I am a person who I feel is easy to talk to, especially one-on-one, as I spoke about before. I think the number one thing that I'm going to do if I'm elected is to introduce myself every day in court, as I've seen other judges do, and then go over the policies and procedures of the court, what's expected, what you need to know in order to be able to be heard and successful when you're litigating your case. What I have found with litigants is that a lot of times litigants feel anxious when they come into court. They don't understand what's going on. They don't understand the policies and procedures. So I will post policies and procedures, but in the advent of every day of court, I will explain to litigants what's going to take place, especially on rule day, because people need to be informed so they understand how their day is going to go and they won't be anxious about what's going to happen. I will always explain, especially like I said on rule day, that I'm going to call the docket, and then when you see us disappear and go in the back, it's the attorneys going in the back to speak to the judge, and status conferences to try to work out solutions on your case where we can. And then if we can't work out solutions, then we're going to have a hearing in the afternoon to try to, to listen to the case and make decisions on things that we weren't able to work out. And so I think, the number one thing in my court is that I would want people to be at ease. I want people to feel like they can talk to me. I want people to feel like they can ask questions. Frequently litigants come up. Family court's a little bit more relaxed than civil district court in that you're sworn in as a party, and even though your lawyer is speaking for you, you also have the opportunity to ask the judge questions if there's something you don't understand. And so, historically, I've been a person that is easy to talk to, easy to connect with, as I have been in my practice. And so people can expect to come in and understand what's going on, and also to understand if I make a decision, for me to explain to you why I made that decision. Because I feel that litigants are more apt to be compliant with judicial decisions if they understand why the decisions were made.
Okay, same question, Ms. Greene. What can someone expect when they come to your courtroom?
What you can expect when you come in family court is and in my courtroom is a courtroom that is efficient, that is moving the docket, but also that is listening to the litigants. You can expect that there will be times that the litigants may need a little bit more time to be understood, and the processes that with courtroom procedures will be held. Accountability will be something that you will have. Even though I understand the needs of and the differences in families and in community, I understand that there is law that governs family court, and there needs to be accountability, and there are the best interest factors that we guide our decisions by, and I will let them lead. The best interest factors will lead my decisions. And like I said, I pretty much said how my courtroom will be run throughout this whole forum, but I just want them to understand that the person that they see now is the person they will get on the bench. Anybody who has come through my law office, has worked with me, whether it's a court-appointed case, they did receive someone that cared, that handled a lot of cases, that made sure that they were listened to, but they also received someone that told them the truth, that told them that this case might not go this way. The facts that you're giving me and the evidence that you're giving me to present to the court, it may not go in your favor. And sometimes clients don't want to hear that, especially in family court. But I am very clear on how the procedures work in family court. I have went to and practiced in various courtrooms across the parish and saw things that I disagree with. And so I want to make sure that I'm implementing the things that I've learned as a solo practitioner to make it an efficient courtroom, and to make it a courtroom that everyone feels is one that's welcoming, but also applies the law.
Okay, Ms. Greene, any closing comments that you'd like to make?
Real brief. I am a daughter of Baton Rouge, public school educated. I have two great parents who have reared my brother and I to achieve more than they have had the opportunity to have. They have exposed me to so much, and in that exposure, I was able to, get 2 degrees, but I also understood that community is important. My access to community is not about being visible. It's about resources. Anyone that has met me in city council, they know that, and I've been a city council person for 6 years. But through that whole time, I ran a law office. Through that whole time, I was trusted by agencies to do work, and individually, I have still made a part of my life to do pro bono work, because I believe that's where we have to start. I also want everyone to understand that family court is different. It is a specialty court. It's a serious court because it deals with emotionally charged issues, and it deals with families and the ultimate, the family's ultimate life, and it will affect them forever. my family has dealt with all of those things. My immediate and my distant family. And so not only have I counseled my family members through these things, I've been able to be with them. As I said, the experience and the value that I have is value for people and their experiences. Everybody's experiences are different. I will take it a case-by-case basis. But I know that what we need in family court, especially this courtroom is a courtroom that would represent the minority district in this parish. And so we need to be very careful as we elect someone for the position. And all I say is remember that election day is November 13th, but early voting does start Saturday. If you're a part of the process and you care about who's elected, make sure you vote. Make sure you tell someone else to vote. I applaud the NAACP for all the work that they do, because they don't just wait till election to be a part of the process. They actually are on the ground, and I benefit from the work that they do in many of the aspects of my life and in the organizations that I represent.
Okay, Ms. Robertson, any closing comments?
So I'd just like to say that thank you for having me here. This journey has been a fantastic journey. I have enjoyed being out in the community, meeting people and talking to people about my mission and my experience. I want voters to remember that, again, I have a lot of exposure. I have the length of experience, the breadth of experience, the depth of experience. I have worked in this division for several years with the judges that have held these seats to make decisions, and they have trusted me to draft decisions and to help them with decision making. I don't know if I mentioned, I said I have 23 years experience, and I talk a lot about being a research attorney, but I am also a partner in a law firm, Antwine Law Firm. I have been a partner in that law firm for 11 years. Before that, I worked as a research attorney, and before that, I had 5 years in New Orleans where I trained with a family law specific firm, law office of Theon Wilson. People who are in New Orleans know that she is a pretty tough family law attorney. So I have cut my teeth on family law for the better part of my career. I've dedicated myself to family law issues. And I also have personal experience in family law. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I have a stepdaughter. My husband was married before. And so we had to learn how to co-parent with my stepdaughter's mom and her stepdad. It was not easy at first, it was challenging. I had a little bit of advantage over everybody else because I had already been working in the family law realm. I understood child support, custody, and things of that nature. But what I learned, regardless of the law, was that we needed to use the resources, the mental health resources, to come together and learn how to co-parent for Tate. Tate is my 21-year-old stepdaughter who, that we made it, essentially. I say, I love her. I've loved her since she was 2 years old, and we always put her first. And so, I just want to say to voters out there who have been single parents and who have had blended families, that I understand because I've been through that myself. And I also want to say, I didn't mention much about my experience working in the pro bono realm, but I do have a LLC called Affordable Divorces. I created that sort of like as an off-spin from my husband's dental practice, which was called Affordable Dentures. And a lot of people in the community have even expressed to me that my husband has allowed them to receive a full set of dentures or implants for free just because he knew there were people out there who had the need. He sold that practice, but I decided to use the Affordable Dentures name and create Affordable Divorces to try to mentor and help people and consult with people through the divorce and custody process who otherwise could not afford that. Through the life of a single mom, with Healing Place Church, I have worked a lot with moms who have needed custody and child support assistance, and I worked a lot with dads. As Mr. Mitchell appointed me through the Public Defender's Office to work a lot with dads who had non-support cases, and so I've gotten the question through my DM, you know, are you going to be as fair with dads? And I can tell you that I will be, because I have heard the stories of dads who were like, you know, the reason I haven't paid my child support is because I'm down on my luck, my wages were reduced, I lost my job, I didn't realize I could file for a reduction in child support until I got back on my feet. So I just want everybody to know that my platform is fairness for our families, and that really means that everybody in my court would have a voice. I want to hear both sides. I want to hear your concerns. I understand your concerns because I'm a mom, but also because I'm a family law practitioner, and this has been my life's work.
All right, well, that concludes our electoral forum. I want to remind everyone again that voting is on November 13th, 2021, and early voting starts October 30th through November 6th. On behalf of the branch, I want to thank each of the candidates for participating. And remember, when we vote, we win.